Hello, and welcome to Outside the Zeitgeist, an opinion podcast presented by Mook Media. Please be aware that the opinions expressed on this show do not necessarily reflect those of the host platform. Outside the Zeitgeist is funded by people like you, for some reason. And now, here are your hosts, Greg and Charles.
All right, welcome to episode 13 of Outside the Zeitgeist. I am your resident misanthrope, Charles.
And I'm your resident skeptic, Greg.
Cheers, Greg.
Cheers, Charles. Everybody drink deeply.
Yes, I especially like making the sipping sounds.
Don't forget to subscribe, share, comment, and most importantly, dislike the video so you can express that the feeling is mutual.
Now, let's weigh in on today's nightmare fuel, and I actually don't have a whole lot of nightmare fuel. I have some positive stuff that, well, really, because it's me, I really just want to shit on. Well, I can shit on it. That's positive for me, at least.
So what do we? I think everything is positive in that you can laugh at it.
Well, yeah.
Positively funny.
Every cloud has a silver lining?
No, every cloud has a gold lining.
So what do we got first, Greg?
First thing I want to talk about...
It's probably the most obvious thing.
Oh, I was going to go for the less obvious things.
Well, let's start with the most obvious thing.
The speech?
Hold on a second.
Gentlemen, he's chugged the first cup.
Go on.
The wonderful speech by Biden, I should say the speech by Biden, wasn't really that wonderful. It really wasn't much of anything. In fact, the entire thing, in my opinion, was a very big fluff type piece. There was a lot of words. There was a lot of statements. There was a lot of copy, Control-Alt-Delete type stuff going on in this. Copy-paste, whatever you want to call it. Biden has been known in the past for stealing other people's words.
Yeah.
And I strongly feel that is the message he's continuing to use. Because he as much as I hate giving credit to Trump for anything, Trump did get the whole vaccine thing rolling, regardless of how effective I think that actually is, or how useful I think that is. And the only vaccine that Biden actually can really take credit for getting rolling is the Johnson & Johnson one. And that was the one that was paused. And the rest of the vaccines were mostly as a result, partially because of Trump.
Yeah.
But he continues to take credit for all of it.
Although there's a part of me that wonders how much of that was Trump just kind of taking credit for,
Once again, I say partially responsible for it, because I really don't believe Trump did much of anything during his time in office.
I'm pretty sure Trump's involvement in the doom spells.
It was a marketer.
Yeah, it was more like, hey, I like that you're doing that. So and then he turns in, yeah, I talked to them and said, do this.
Sure, the Operation Warp Speed and all that.
That's usually how things like that work out.
So I'm hesitant to say how much he is responsible for it, but I will say that it is most certainly not under Biden's watch that any of these vaccinations, with the exception of possibly Johnson & Johnson, actually came to be done.
Yeah, I think Johnson & Johnson started before as well.
Absolutely. But he was the one who supposedly got the legal tape.
Yeah, whatever.
Still
all horseshit.
So, I mean, in addition to stealing plays out of Trump's playbook.
And everybody else's.
Yes, everybody else's. There was just... there was a couple things he said that just seemed really bad. Like, he was talking about, let's get the $15 minimum wage. That already has been something that I've heard from the Young Turks that he already screwed up on. Because they already missed their chance to do something with it. And they already moved past it. So it felt like
Forced to vote?
Yeah. It felt like maybe a non sequitur.
I mean, the other things, too, is he wants to just spend $6 trillion. That where the fuck are we going to get it? And, of course, that $6 trillion isn't going to go to you or me.
Sure.
It's not going to do it. It's going to make our lives better.
I see people make who are on the left, who don't really, I think, have a good grasp of money to begin with. But they always make the point, which is valid in my opinion, if we're going to just create money, okay, if we're going to just magically have trillions of dollars that are there to spend.
Right.
Why even ask for taxes at
Yeah,
all?
exactly. If you're just creating money, why tax the people then?
Exactly.
And
we have an infinite supply of money, theoretically, that is only counterbalanced by the fact that if we create too much of this infinite supply of money,
like we're doing now.
yes, we will totally destroy our economy by comparison to
Like we're doing now.
another country in the world.
Except for they're all doing that now.
They all, the entire world's going insane. Insane. That's why I buy Pokemon cards, because they will hold better value than cash.
Yeah.
I'm not an investment advisor. Do not take my advice. Do not listen to a single word that I have said with any actual seriousness. Remember, we're just entertaining you.
Yeah. Also, we don't like you.
No, or trust you.
And I think, if I remember correctly, Emperor Biden mentioned something about DARPA in his speech as well, which is pretty interesting, considering that the Boston Dynamics robots are not going to be walking around New York anymore, apparently. I mean...
Did they take the dogs' jobs? Are we fighting for the organic dogs?
Yeah,
we can't fight for robotic dogs.
Apparently,
isn't that discrimination?
It was well. I mean, because it was the whole point they were there was AI affirmative action, but but I mean that what we see what's going on, right? And with like the AI and so forth, and like how Facebook like they created this AI and. It didn't they didn't like the way it was thinking, so they disconnected it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They didn't like how the fact that they created an AI that thought differently than the way they wanted it to? You're supposed to delete this stuff, monitor that stuff, not...
I mean, that's going to be an episode we're going to have to probably talk about at some point in the future, is the whole AI...
I would love to talk about it.
AI sentience and citizenry, you have... what the fuck was the name of that game? It was on PlayStation.
Yes, I know which one you're talking about.
With the fucking... They did a tech demo with the, house-made character. Why am I... Detroit Become Human, there we go.
Yep, Detroit Become Human. I love that they chose Detroit for that game, too.
Yeah, I did a review on the game. That game...
I watched someone play through it. I thought it was really good.
I was actually kind of disappointed that the character who... really inspired the game, that her story was minimized.
Other thing that was interesting about Biden's speech, this quote, we the people are the government.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of statement is that?
Well, I mean, it's really true. I mean, like I've mentioned, if you look at the founding of our country, this is stuff that's been said by all the great thinkers, especially Thomas Paine has said government only exists based on the consent of the people.
Yes.
And what's it called? I forgot where I was going. I was going somewhere good with this. No, but and you have people like, oh, I want smaller government, and but you think, well, every citizen is part of the government. So what do you mean you want smaller government?
Well, okay, so when I want smaller government, and I say stuff like that, because I don't like big government, I talk about, realistically, the impact that the entity referred to as the government has on my life, okay? The fact that we have an entity that is the government, okay, and it's not like some monarchy, although it's turning into that, and I'll explain in a moment.
Well, we are the Empire of American States, after all.
Absolutely. I envision that the United States could have been a much different country at this point in time if we did not have to. You know the phrase someone fucks up and it ruins it for everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody shits in a well.
Yes, I strongly feel the United States has basically taken that to an extreme degree. In fact, I think almost every government in general has taken that sort of ideology to an extreme degree, because we literally have a law for every stupid goddamn thing when someone screws up, okay? For example, this lovely liquid I have right here. Obviously, there shouldn't be people of a certain age drinking. But
hey,
there was no way of doing any of that.
I'm with George Carlin on this. The kid that swallows the most marbles doesn't live to grow up and have kids of their own, so...
Sure.
Fuck them.
Sure, absolutely. But my point being is that what did we do to to make certain that people could buy this is we have IDs. IDs are a great way of numbering people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And so the ID does a lot of stuff for us, but the overall point I'm making is that we've created laws using the IDs in almost every single circumstance that we could. One of those happens to be how you can buy and sell liquor. It's another one of those bureaucracy puts extra steps between the simplest things.
You got anything else you want to point out from the Biden speech?
Ted Cruz fell asleep.
I was wondering what I was doing with my life, but I fell asleep also. But it's a good thing. It's a good thing that well, obviously the Washington Post has just accepted the fact that all politicians lie, so they're not going to be fact checking Biden anymore like they were doing with Trump, because all
Bezos thing.
All politicians lie. I mean, right? So that the Washington Post said, "Fuck it, we're not gonna check facts on the president anymore."
After saying we had to check facts from presidents named Trump.
So that's my conclusion. The Washington Post is admitting that all politicians lie.
I agree. I agree with that statement. 99.9% of the time.
I agree with it 110%.
You agree way too much.
Well,
you agree even when you're not agreeing.
Yeah, I mean, well, normally I reserve 100% for 110% for, or giving 110% for when I'm donating blood, but there are special occasions.
In another related news that shows how much we're turning into some sort of lineage monarchy of sorts, Hunter Biden continues to ride on his father's coattails. He is now going to be doing a guest lecture on fake news at the Orleans University. I find this completely within what my expectations were. Because it's not as if Hunter Biden wasn't already making money off of his father's coattails to begin with.
I'm particularly glad that, apparently the FBI raided Giuliani's office and they took everything except the Hunter Biden drive. That according to reports.
My impression was that they already had a copy of it, so maybe they don't need an original source. Or maybe...
Hey, what's that, Giuliani? Oh, it's the Hunter Biden drive. Oh, we don't need it. We've got 10 copies floating around the office.
They haven't acted on it. They haven't done anything about it.
Oh, God. Apparently, I think, also along those lines, too, I think Epstein's place has been demolished.
Has it?
Yeah, I believe so. I saw a headline in passing, but...
Yeah, I'm still following the information on the case whenever it pops up from the people who actually follow it. And it seems like it's just not something that the news wants to cover.
Yeah.
Because apparently talking about the truth of what happens behind the scenes in government is not profitable.
Of course not. Of course not.
Remember, fake news is profitable.
And news that gets you angry with each other, that's profitable.
Very, very profitable. Fear, anger, porn sells. Everything else not those? Yes.
Because we're all fucking disgusting humans.
Absolutely.
What else you got, Greg?
I've got a wonderful thing.
While you're looking it up, apparently, if you've been protesting over the past couple of years, or like maybe even rioting, you're getting different treatment based on what you were causing a ruckus over. So, people that went to the Citadel on January 6th, even people that didn't participate in any protests or riot are getting looked into and having visits by the FBI and so forth. And people that were arrested because of it are being held in solitary confinement with no bail.
Interesting. Also against the law, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it can be. It depends on what reason they do it for, because it can be for safety and so forth.
I'm certain that these people did anything to that extent.
Yeah, but the people that were burning buildings down and so forth.
In Detroit or Portland or Seattle, or
apparently
New York or Baltimore or.
Supposedly they're getting off on reduced sentences or slaps on the wrist and so forth, and it makes me. The first question that comes to my mind when I hear shit like that is, okay, if this is true, which it probably is, it just shows you who's been paid off to instigate all these riots and so forth in the first place, and who's actually, naturally rioting. And people are painting it as one side over the other, but I would look first as who's got more money in their bank accounts now.
The billionaires.
Well, no, I'm talking about the people that were arrested.
Oh, yeah. The billionaires.
Billionaires get arrested? When did this start happening?
Well, they got a slap on the wrist.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, aside from Epstein and Maxwell.
There's wonderful talking about people being arrested and all that. Really dovetails well into what I'm about to talk about.
Oh, what are you about to talk about, Greg?
Apparently, I've heard this on a good source. Derek Chauvin. Anyways, he was going to be arrested by the feds anyways if he had gotten a not guilty verdict. And in fact, from what I hear, now I can't say for certain any of this information is 100% accurate, but I hear it from a good source. He was going to be arrested immediately at the trial after he got not guilty verdicts.
If he got a not guilty verdict.
Yes. And I find the entire thing just, if this is true, which I can't say it is or isn't, but there were definitely the feds had I believe there was something going on that they were going to charge him and the other cops on.
Mm-hmm.
I just find the entire thing is just, wow, we have to put this guy in jail as the sacrifice no matter what happens. So if the people don't come through and give us what we need, we're going to get them anyways.
Yeah, well, people got to get their marching orders.
Remember, they already got their marching orders.
Yeah.
They continue. Continue. So...
Yeah, I mean, how else are you going to get people to line up if you don't, put the scapegoats, or not even the scapegoats, but the proxies and so forth up ahead, And it's always that whole thing of, oh, let's not pay attention to the real criminals. Let's pay attention to this guy that, we're going to vilify. He's going to be representative of everybody.
Yeah, that seems to be the general rule of thumb is if I'm in hot water, the best way for me to get out of being in hot water
is to, hey, look at that guy over there.
Yes. Classic bit.
Works. It's been working for hundreds of years. So.
According to the movies, it works every time.
Yeah. 90% of the time, it works 60% of the time.
Just like that. Exactly like that. Great quote.
I know I didn't say it right, but, here's something interesting going on. Russia. Mob Russia. The whole country, we had this whole... they're interfering with our elections with MAGA dildos and whatever.
Yeah, I kept hearing that they were angry that we kept blaming them for everything that it didn't do.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot we could talk about on Russia. That's a good half-hour discussion. But apparently they've been doing it for a while. They've been selling off their U.S. Treasury debt for the past 3 or 4 years. But now they're making more moves to get away from the dollar and to start adopting the euro, which I find interesting because you already have countries in Europe getting closer to China, and Russia and China are also pretty close geopolitically. So this could be a way that Russia winds up gaining favor in Europe, as if they gain the euro, and then Europe surpassing the United States, which Germany basically runs anyways because they're doing all kinds of. Germany basically runs the EU anymore.
So Germany did take over the world.
Yeah, pretty much. They did it by educating all of their civilians.
Oh, but you had re-education camps.
No, not that kind of education. Actual education.
Oh, real education.
Yeah, real education. And now they're like they're
so
pretty smart.
You're telling me the Germans are smarter than the French?
Oui. But well, no, I mean those two countries typically have fairly well-educated people in general, but
yeah, I mean they're all protesting against the governments.
Yeah, and well, yeah, I mean this is something interesting to watch. I mean, if Russia adopts the euro, completely abandons the American dollar and adopts the euro as trade, you're going to see a huge shift in power and a lot of rhetoric going against Europe from our politicians.
I thought we already had a lot of rhetoric against Europe.
Not so
I'm
much.
sorry, just the Russian part of Europe.
Yeah. So.
This entire thing does not surprise me. If Russia really wanted to make a play against the United States, the best way to do that would be to devalue our currency.
Yeah, which we've been doing by ourselves.
Sure.
And really, when I say I say people that aren't we, that is the cabal, that is the Federal Reserve.
Or rather, I should say not we. The politicians have opened us up to a very big hole, which is the downside of printing so much goddamn fucking money.
Well, that's not the politicians, that's the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve is a private organization that has guidelines from the federal government.
Isn't it the two of them working together?
No, so you have the Federal Reserve Board, which is 9 members, 6 of which are elected by the banks, 3 of which are cycled by one of which is the treasurer, the Secretary of the Treasury, and then the others get cycled in through the government appointed. I forget exactly how it works, but the actual Federal Reserve, and all the board does is just say, hey, the Federal Reserve should do this, and the Federal Reserve hasn't paid attention to that at all for really the past 20 years. So,
that long? I'm talking about since Clinton left office.
I mean, why do you think 2008 happened?
The 2008 happened because of Clinton and a whole nother.
Well, actually, there's more. There's a lot more.
I know there's more, but I'm just.
But yeah, I mean, because the Federal Reserve is an unaccountable cabal, and that's just been printing money like crazy lately, and they're the ones that have been devaluing our currency. But as far as the American economy, that's from people like Rockefeller and Kissinger, who decided to make us a subservient nation back when they say, yo, let's have all this shit made in China and open up trade and reduce tariffs and all that shit.
Tariffs. In other news.
You want me to go next?
No. I'll bring up that cigarettes, specifically mint flavored ones.
Menthols
are racist.
Oh, they are racist. Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, we got to ban them.
Yeah.
This is going to go very well. I do not expect there to be a black market. I do not expect.
Wait, a black market?
You caught what I did there.
I see what you did.
I do not expect there to be an underground community of people that feel they're being treated as second-class citizens just because they want mint-flavored cigarettes, or mint-flavored tobacco product, or mint anything. Eventually, mint is going to be outlawed. Watch out, you mint flavors. They're coming for you.
I like how the supposed the donkey side of the donkey fin. Mainly their policies are, oh, well, black people are too stupid to think for themselves and make their own decisions.
I hate when people try to defend that that's not what they're saying.
Yeah. I mean, but again, you get it from both. You're going to get it from all the politicians because it's all the politicians against you because, and somebody was actually talking about this yesterday. You know, all these, people that go for the elephant side of the donkey fin party, they wave that banner. Or like, oh, the government wants to take away your guns. I'm going to, protect your gun rights. But these people are voting in and writing red flag laws.
I really don't know how to differentiate between...
That's why I called it donkey fan.
I know.
It's half donkey.
I'm just saying, I don't know how to differentiate between them.
It's half donkey, half elephant. And it's a mystical creature where both halves are the asshole half that shits all over the people.
So it's a velociraptor.
Wait, velociraptor?
Just throwing something out there. See how you react.
I'm like, where the fuck you get that from?
It's the third party, the Dino Party.
So, in other interesting news, apparently there's a driver shortage. That's helping to raise prices because, I told your roommate at the end of last year who wanted to build a new bookshelf, I'm like, do it now. And things like lumber.
Yeah, lumber's going up.
It's been going up like crazy. And
you know what else is going up?
What's that?
Motherfucking liquor.
Oh, yeah.
There's one I usually get. It's called Hibiki. It's a Japanese whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
When I was buying the bottle 5 years ago, $65. I went in the other day, 120.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing a huge spike in food prices everywhere too. But yeah, there's a driver shortage going on. But so, I'm a disabled vet. I get emails from the Department of Veterans Affairs, and apparently the Department of Veterans Affairs is helping veterans get driver jobs with Amazon now.
Jobs that are being monitored by Amazon, that they can track you with, jobs that will disappear within 5 to 10 years based on the fact that they're...
Robot drivers.
Yeah.
And
Wasn't that a big thing in Detroit, Become Human? The fact that there were robot trucks and they used...
Well, yeah, it was everybody was losing their jobs because of robots, and realistically, I mean, that's a parallel for automation, and that's a discussion we'll tackle at some point too. How the economy is going to move that way, but I mean, shit like there are some good things that the VA does too. The things they do are kind of hit and miss, in my opinion. Like, they had a program a few years back where they were giving veterans games, like keys for games and whatnot, video games. So that was like pretty cool. But
only because you like video games.
Well, but even still,
Other interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Apparently, cops are still unimportant.
Unless they make TikToks.
Yeah, well, no. Because they make TikToks, they're unimportant. We can get rid of them more easily.
Ah, okay. So for those of you that don't know, there was a cop that made a TikTok video based on LeBron James, or he was basically poking fun at LeBron James. Now, I do have to say, with the reference to LeBron James' tweet that he put out, is that it was very ambiguous, but that also was the problem with it, is that it was very ambiguous.
And he deleted it because it was not specific enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's not what he said, though.
It was ambiguous.
But so the thing is, so this cop makes a TikTok where he's calling up LeBron James. He's like, well, how do I handle these two black guys, and one of them's gonna kill each other, and one's in danger. He's like, oh, they're black, leave them alone. Okay, so now
I thought it was funny.
It was funny. Now here's the thing. So he's on suspension right now. People are saying the guy's probably gonna get fired.
I don't know why.
Well, okay, so here's the things. First off, is the issue policy wise is that he did it in his uniform.
See, okay, that's what it always comes down to. Stupid nonsense that they... And this is why I always tell people, this is a very important thing. The moment you get hired for a position, you always want to be on the lookout for something you're about to do, which can get you fired from the position.
Yeah.
Because retail and every other job I've ever worked for will always look for the stupidest reason to get rid of you if you do not look good to them.
Right. I mean, well, so this the whole issue with this is these policies where doing something in uniform and so forth. They're saying, the whole point of these policies is saying that anything a person does while they're in uniform, their work uniform, and now it's anything they do in their life is automatically representative of whatever institution they work for.
I don't believe that.
And well, that doesn't make any sense. There's no logic behind that at all. People work at the end of the day. People work for themselves. They're there to get a paycheck. They don't give a fuck about where they're working for, especially not anymore, because there's nothing in it for them except for whatever little fucking dollars that they can get to actually sustain themselves. So this whole notion of people actually represent their business, or a cop represents the police or so forth, it's horseshit. It's been horseshit, and it doesn't matter whether or not I agree with him or disagree with him. It's all reasons for people to just try to get one over on each other, and it's...
Now, I see your point, and I agree with your point, but I also see a different point, which is the fact that these entities are sort of brands, even when they're not brands. Like, the cops are not supposed to be a brand, but they are a brand.
That's the problem, is that they're made into a brand, which they are not.
Right. So the fact of the matter when it comes to these things is that because we treat basically everything as a brand, including our politicians, we treat everything as a branding message. We've gone to an extreme when it comes to marketing. We've over-marketed a number of not only products, but policies and positions that we hold with people. And because of that, because people are idiots, including ourselves, because people are idiots and they see someone doing, if I see a cop do something stupid, well, my mind is going to immediately make me think the next time I see a cop, oh, that cop might do something stupid too. So
yeah, it's the whole ability of a person to actually stop and questioning what they see and so forth, and how much it's representative. And this behavior by companies and institutions in general of saying, oh well, even off the clock you represent us. This is what.
dumb.
What's that?
It's dumb.
Well, this is what has created the Karen phenomenon.
Sure, absolutely.
Because there's no way around it.
We've given people leeway just by granting them that if you are not on the clock, you represent us, and allowing them to actually use that logic, we further give people the ability to make a bad leap of logic, which is, oh, they must be right. That guy does represent them,
right?
And thus, by representing them, I can now use that person against them if I want to take them to take a lawsuit against them or something of that nature.
Right.
It's just all bad logic.
Yeah, but again, it's the stuff that has created the Karen phenomenon. It's the whole idea of punish people based on, because before that it even started based on ideologies, right?
Sure.
It's like, oh, you did something this must mean that you're kind of person. No, you're just a regular person and so forth. And people, like I said before, nobody wants to be judge, nobody wants to be jury. People only want to be executioner. That is why our race is disgusting, and I fucking hate you all. But
thank you.
Yeah, well,
very beautiful.
I mean, but there are some people that are supporting this guy though, and there's actually a GoFundMe for him. And
$80,000 or more.
Yeah, I think it got up to like 100,000 actually.
80,000 was what I heard Tim Pool reporting about it, which was a couple hours ago. So that wouldn't make that makes plenty of sense that it would already be up to over 100,000. God bless those people. I'm very happy that there are actually people who are, they're just understanding individuals in this world. It's the people have a heart or something.
I don't want people to have a heart.
That's only because you don't have one.
Yeah, I don't have a soul either. Ginger ate it.
No, you have a soul.
Oh.
It's just not in your possession.
But speaking of fundraisers, there's another fundraiser that's been going on for the Holiday Inn guy.
Tell me about this.
So this guy at a Holiday Inn, he had bipolar disorder, and there was a mistake that was made by Holiday Inn over this guy's reservation. And according to the guy that was working at the Holiday Inn, the guy was calling him like fag and this, that, and the other thing. And then he starts recording him, and he's still pressuring the guy. And the guy's like, before he started recording him, the guy's like, well, listen, I have mental issues. Please just let me, give me a second so I can take care of it and so forth. And it was like late at night or whatever, I think. I don't remember exactly when. But he records, he's getting on the guy.
Right.
He's like, this is what your company treats people, blah, blah, blah. And then the guy just flips out. The guy behind the desk flips out, and he just starts bashing his head on the monitor because he can't handle it, right? He's got mental disorders. So that's...
Holy shit.
Yeah, so that spreads around the internet. And then you have this guy who's apparently a huge racist and a race baiter, Tariq Nasheed. He's going around saying, something about black people and white people and some fucking horse shit. And so it spread around. This guy who owns a channel called The Quartering, he owns two channels, The Quartering and Midwestly, is Hambly. He started a GoFundMe for this guy, and he's been...
I've heard of that guy.
Yeah,
he's entertaining.
Yeah, he's for me, he's hit or miss, but...
That's why I said entertaining.
But he started a GoFundMe. That's up to like $150,000 now or something for this other guy, because... he's like, oh, I want to be a streamer, this, that, and the other thing. But you still have people like this Tariq Nasheed asshole, just trying to race bait the situation. And so, oh, it's a white guy, black people, fucking blah, blah. Now, the other thing and that is apparently like all these people want to like cancel Tariq Nasheed now. And the thing is, You know, it's more of that whole cancer culture bullshit. Get rid of this person out of society because we don't like him. Now, I do have to kind of caveat because, I mean, if Tariq Nasheed's whole premise is that he goes around making money just by race baiting people, well then, yeah, I mean, there's nothing else you can do there, right? But it goes again more for, like, you know, with this cop and with Tariq Nasheed is the whole idea of cancel this person, take away their livelihood just because they said something that we don't like, you know. And that's what, and this is gets into why I want to do the show, is because nobody just wants to accept the fact that, oh, you know what, this guy's an asshole. He did this. Yeah, fuck him. I don't want to be friends with him. You know, whatever. Now it's, you know, we got to kill the person and so forth. You know, kill him slowly, death by 1,000 cuts or death by starvation and whatever. So
I always wondered what a death by 1,000 cuts would feel like. I've always thought it would be very painful.
I have razor blades over there if you want to try.
I'm not looking to try today.
Oh, okay. Tomorrow? I mean, especially with what you got going on.
Make a rain shot.
But anyways, no, the whole idea, right, and like I said, my whole thing of why I do this show is just because I want to be an asshole to everybody. I'm fucking pissed off and fed up and everything, too. And let people come after me, you know?
Sure.
That's probably what they're going to do anyways, because people are fucking stupid and they're going to go after the low-hanging fruit, which is somebody telling them that they're fucking stupid rather than the person actually causing their problems, because, you know, people suck.
You're stupid, by the way.
You're all stupid. I fucking hate you all. So, yeah, that's kind of, I wanted to weigh in both sides on that issue.
You good, man?
Yeah, I'm done with that. I got some other stuff. You got any more stuff?
I do, but you know, let's talk about another one of your things.
Okay.
I'll talk about this next.
I got one more before we get into my last one. So, and this is more of a positive thing. So, I came across this guy doing an interview, and he runs this site called Brax.me, Brax.me. Apparently it's a privacy-focused social network. But the interesting thing about this is this guy was talking about having de-Googled phones, and there's a way to actually have phones that have all the Google stuff taken off of them.
That'd be great.
And running just pure open source Android. And it takes a long time to get the phones, but if you're interested in that thing, then and a more privacy focused social media site, you know, this would be something to check out.
I'm going to have to check this out. Maybe I'll get rid of my phone just to get a phone that doesn't have Google on it.
And I might have something. No,
Keep
they
this
never
one for all my
emailed me.
emails and everything.
No.
The next thing, the last thing I want to bring up is I saw this wonderful story. It is nightmare fuel to some people, not to me. But I saw this story of an entire school board being kicked out and being replaced with a school board that, upon being voted in, immediately voted for their children to not have to have mandatory masks while in school, which I thought was really good because the science is out there saying that children don't really spread the disease as much, or if at all.
And the masks
they can't really
affect them.
get the disease, really, and the masks are more detrimental to children than they are to anybody else. And I think we've seen a ton of that last year with all the teenage suicides and such, and just the effects that it's having on children. They're becoming depressed, and it's absolutely terrible. All this mask business, especially in the school setting. So I was pretty happy about that.
You see some of the pictures of the kids in the bubbles while they're playing instruments.
Oh my God.
It's fucking stupid.
It's hilarious. Don't get me wrong. All of this nightmare fuel of last year is going, I'm going to treasure every last bit of it because it is pure entertainment. But it is awful. It is fucking disgusting and awful, and I can't believe society actually, it's like you think about all the worst things that you could do as a society. Oh, let's put children inside tiny little bags where they can play their instruments, so that way they can't spread a disease that isn't likely to do anything to them anyways. That's a terrible idea. Why would we do that? Because we can.
And it makes people suffer. I mean, I'm all about people suffering.
That's what Christianity and Catholicism tells me, is that life is about suffering.
Yeah, well, religion in general, so. But, along with that, some of you may remember the fuck cheer Snapchat. Fuck school, fuck cheer, whatever the fuck. And this girl gets kicked off the cheerleading squad from a high school because she's. So for those of you who don't know, this girl, I think it was about a year ago, something happened where I think she got turned down for the varsity. She was in regular cheerleading squad, but she got turned down for the varsity.
Right.
So she is out hanging out later on at a convenience store or whatever. And she sends out a Snapchat to her friends, and it says, fuck school, fuck cheer, fuck the coaches. And so they removed her from the cheerleading squad because of that.
So you tell me, instead of maybe getting a psychiatrist
With psychiatrist?
Or a psychologist, or guidance counselor, or someone to talk to the girl, find out what the hell's going on with her, find out what the problem is.
Okay, that you don't need a psychiatrist for, but yeah, I get where you're going.
Right, somebody who might be more of the mental aspects inclined. Instead of having someone to talk to the person, this teenager, they just compounded the situation by removing her from everything.
Yeah, pretty much. So,
sounds like they need to get rid of teachers and counselors, because they should have sent in a guidance counselor instead to do the job that they did. Oh no, that's just me projecting my thoughts.
So, this case went to court. Her family sued, and it actually made it all the way to the Supreme Court. And so you had the defense, which was the school district, and also you had one from a lawyer from the federal government aiding the defense. As well as the prosecuting attorney and so forth. And the defense's train wrecks were all the defense's statements were all train wrecks. So there was one point when I believe it was Justice Kagan was asking the government lawyer. She was like, "Let's do a hypothetical. Because their whole thing is that they were using a Supreme Court case called Tinker. And Tinker says that student speech can be limited if it would be disruptive to the process of school. Right?
That sounds like almost anything.
Right. So, and this is when, I believe it was Kagan, goes to the lawyer for the government, and he's like, all right, let's do a little experiment here. I'm going to put a bunch of situations, and you tell me if it's school speech, meaning it affects the school, or if it's the student's free speech. And basically everything she put out, including student sends a tweet telling people not to come to the school because it has a homophobia problem. The lawyer says, "Oh, that would be speech that the school would be able to take action on."
Why?
It's fucking stupid. Their arguments were fucking stupid. Their whole idea is that basically, really what they were saying is that Tinker could be used to have a blanket authority by the school, no matter where a student is, because they can just claim, oh, it's going to disrupt the school. So, like, if the fucking student is in Australia, just talking to somebody, that would be disruptive to the school. And the defense actually used the argument that because it was on Snapchat, that it shouldn't be allowed because they can just use a different medium to spread whatever their opinions are, which is just like, it's like, oh yeah, let's ban books because people can just write their thoughts down on something different.
Isn't that like the same argument that I hear gun advocates talking about? Yeah, ban the AR-15 because we'll just create another gun that uses the same bullet and we'll call it something else.
You mean the gun control advocates?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same thing. Oh,
No. The people that the people who are advocating for why these are bad laws to begin with is that if you ban a gun,
you just
create another one and you just change a tiny little.
Right, but the whole thing is in our legal system. This whole argument of they can just do the same thing another way is not an argument that holds water in any case.
But that's my point.
Yeah, right. So, and the lawyer for the student, the cheerleader, properly pointed out that outside of the school you have all other laws like anti-bullying laws, and you have a Supreme Court case with Gibbons, which is for like conspiracy, right? Because they were talking about if they're conspiring to cause a disruption in school. Now, if the Supreme Court is smart, and this is my opinion, they would just modify what came out of Tinker and say that it's only if if the speech can only be prohibited if it presents an immediate disruption to the school. Because then you're talking about somebody being in class or somebody saying, "Hey, let's all riot right now," or whatever the fuck like that. That one little word can create a huge difference. But this whole idea that schools have been using Tinker for that they can just restrict speech of any student or restrict actions really of any student. Well, the Tinker is actually about speech, but no matter where they are, because we think it's going to be disruptive, right? Like, if I tell, I mean, by that logic, I can just be a kid and home and say good night, mom, and the school can find that disruptive for whatever bullshit reason they want. So
I would find that disruptive.
Yeah.
Fuck that kid. That guy, Rob, who said, "Good night, Mom," that was so disruptive. I don't need to hear that in school. But
yeah, go ahead.
This is a good jumping point into the main topic.
Well, yeah, because especially the one person's closing arguments, and I forget who it was, but started throwing all this like it was that legal tactic of spaghetti on the wall. We're just throwing all this shit out. It's like, oh yeah, I mean, if we just rule by Tinker, well, it's just like saying that we're we might as well have the gulags back and this, that, and the other thing, and
that calls for a second cup.
Yeah. So, but she mainly started throwing all these different fallacies out there, which brings us to our topic of the day, which is fallacies. Fallacies. So, how do you want to start off, Greg?
Well, I want to point out in the this one argument, because I see people do this all the time, is they take a rule, so to speak, okay? And in this case, it's the school can do anything if it affects this. What was the specific?
That the schools can limit speech if the speech has been found to be disruptive to the proceedings of the school.
Okay, so by the logic of that statement, and it's a very broad, generalized statement, theoretically anything I say can be found to be disruptive. And the reason I say that is because the teacher is talking, and I immediately say, "Yo, teacher, you suck," or anything like that. Okay, it doesn't even have to be that. It could be, "Hey, Rob, how you doing?" Because it's disruptive. Okay, now this is in class where it would make sense.
I mean, you can even go take an even more benign approach and just be like, just interrupt the teacher. "I don't understand," and that would be disruptive.
Right. So that would be a more realistic time where I think it would be disruptive, because you're disrupting the class from learning. Now we take it to the situation where I'm actually outside and it's recess from my class, and I'm saying, "Yo, Rob, what's going on?" And the teacher in the classroom reaches over to the window, opens it up, and tells me to shut the fuck up because I'm disrupting her classroom. When it's clear that her classroom is always going to be next to recess, so there's always going to be loud noises next to her classroom when one group of the students is on recess.
But I mean, you could take an even more authoritarian view in front of that and say, "I don't want you talking to Rob because I think you're going to cause trouble, and therefore it's disruption."
So that's even further. So it's you take this very generalized statement and you say, well, because there isn't anything that says I can't do this, now I can just willy-nilly do it whenever I want and whenever I feel like. And that's always I always feel that's the thought process behind someone who wants to take control of the conversation or wants to take control of a situation. And I've done it myself in a few occasions just to troll people.
Yeah, well, there is that thing too, sometimes people, what's it called? Sometimes it's better to ask forgiveness than permission.
Yes, I hear that all the time. I don't like that. That just means I have carte blanche, the ability to do whatever I want, and then if I can just win over.
As long as I can get away with it, and
Yeah, that just basically means I can cheat without worrying about anything until it is time for me to worry about it. So I think it's a fallacy in that regard because you're not really honoring you're not giving the original argument. It's what's the word?
credence.
I guess so. Yeah, that would be one way of describing it. You're not respecting the. God damn.
So what you're saying is that um, God, I can't remember. So if A then B does not mean if not A then not B. That's
Something
what
like
you're
that.
talking about.
If you were going to put it into a mathematical equation.
Yeah, that's basic logic.
You're not
remember
basically just not respecting the original argument itself. You're not respecting the entire thing. You're saying, well, it doesn't say this. So, for example, if I'm playing Monopoly and it doesn't say that in the rulebook, if I roll Snake Eyes, I get one of every single bill. We could argue that you could get one of every bill for rolling Snake Eyes.
Right.
Okay, now that's at that point you're actually modifying the game. But I see this type of logic used in sports or board gaming or any game of sorts. It's just because it doesn't say I can't do this.
Right.
Mean
It's the absence of rule means that
it must be allowed.
It must be allowed. Yeah.
Which, once again,
I'm gonna fucking.
You're not really respecting the actual laws or rules or the wording itself. You're just saying, well, it doesn't provide enough clarification for this, so I'm just going to continue to argue that my clarification is the correct clarification, and so that's a fallacy, is because you're creating a rule to exist that didn't exist before in that regard. You're taking it down a like a sort of dead logical path. And you're just trying to win the argument when you bring stuff like that up. Now, I will argue stuff like this all the time against people who I don't care about, just because I want to see how they respond to doing that. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do this. I'm just saying that you're a dick, and I respect the fact that I'm a dick. I understand.
Wait, you respect the fact that you're a dick, or
Yes.
that I'm a dick?
No.
No.
I don't respect the fact that you're a dick. I find that to be a dickish move.
Yeah, but I'm trying to remember what it, so like there's all different kinds of fallacy names. I'm trying to remember the not
Just
off the top of my
memes.
list of fallacies.
Just don't make it phallic memes.
Here we got a list of common fallacies.
There we go.
But I was looking at this list before actually, and they're not all.
All that good?
Yeah, because some things that are listed here on as fallacies, equivocation. There we go. That's what that would be. If A then B does not mean if not A then not B. That would to say it would that would be an equivocation fallacy because it's not the same. There's nothing specifically linking than the other.
I love circular logic. I was listening to Destiny debate this guy who's trying to prove how his Marxist economy was going to work.
Oh, something about Destiny came up in my headlines recently. I can't remember.
Yeah, he got banned from Twitch.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Because he accidentally showed a very salacious picture of Biden or something.
He showed a picture of Hunter Biden. That's what it was.
Well, I thought it was based on the blurred out image. I thought it was Hunter Biden was in some state of disrepair. Or something like that.
Was it the one with the crack pipe?
It might have been that one. I thought it was interesting that they banned him for that.
Of course they would.
But that also leads. That's also they have a false argument as to why they can ban him for that too.
Oh yeah.
It's
again equivocation fallacy.
So what I was saying with Destiny is that he was arguing against this guy that was communist, arguing for some sort of communist or Marxist economy
actually,
idea.
I gotta think about that one for a second. Saying equivocation, so because it says here equivocation, but there's false equivocation is really what
they really mean, right?
Yeah, that's at least what I really mean, because when you talk about equivocation in general, right, you have this term that came up a while ago, which is called the whataboutism,
Sure.
right, in reference to Tucker Carlson, and in saying that it's a kind of fallacy, and that's not exactly true, because there is now. I mean, it could be a diversionary tactic, right?
Sure.
You can have a false equivocation, true, right? But however, in any kind of logical argument where you're trying to define lines and see where things stand, you need to say, well, what about this? What about that? So that you can compare things, right? Well, how does this same principle apply here? How does the same principle apply here? Right? So a lot of people are quick to call things fallacies that are not exactly fallacies, and that whole whataboutism is not inherently a fallacy. There can be false equivocation. There can be distractionary. It can be used as a distractionary tactic, but it's not inherently a fallacy, because in order to find out how things are the same, you need to peel them apart. In order to find out how things are different, you need to put them together. It's just a natural way of things.
Sure.
So, but since I'm mentioning things that aren't really fallacies, I want to throw one more in there, is the slippery slope argument, right? People are quick to say that this is a fallacy, which it isn't really a fallacy, because...
What do you mean by...
So the slippery slope argument is, well, if you have... Well, you heard a lot. Well, if we allow gays to get married, next thing you know, the world's going to end, right? Now...
No.
Right. Now, people will try to say that, using examples like this, that a slippery slope is a fallacy in and of itself, which it is not. A slippery slope is a logical argument because, again, you're looking for where the line ends. If you take a look at a situation and you don't compare it to, say, the extremes, then you're not going to ever find out which way you want to go and which way you don't want to go. But there is a caveat to that, and this is when a slippery slope is not a fallacy, and that is a logical progression from one to the other, where it's an actual cause effect that can be repeated, right? Most people use that call a slippery slope a fallacy do so because what is actually being used is something that is a fallacy, and that is the non sequitur, right? And the non sequitur is something that non sequitur basically means does not follow, right? So if I say, all right, well, if I'll just use the same argument. But, we allow gays to get married, and then the world ends, right? That's a non sequitur. There's nothing linking one to the other. There's no logical action sequence of events that either has been repeated before or has even been theorized, really, not just hypothesized.
So that's a fallacy there because you're trying to connect two things that don't really relate.
Right.
Except for maybe by some religious person's extreme
desires,
right?
Yeah.
So that's a fallacy, of course. But when I was thinking about this topic, I was always thinking about with regards to the fact that people will argue points that they purposefully know are bad points, not because they want to. Because I do this kind of shit just to
fuck with people.
Yes,
like I do.
I do it just to fuck with people, and I also do it to test if someone actually will believe what I'm saying, because it doesn't. I don't expect people to actually believe some of the shit I'm saying just because it's a bad argument.
Yeah, I mean, even on here, I can't remember, but I don't have a problem throwing out shit just to see how people react to it.
Well,
because
that's the fun of life.
I mean, well, for me, it's always about observing what people do, right? So that's why So some people lie and do what to protect their identity or to protect themselves from some kind of reprisal and whatnot. I'll do it just because I'm studying how people react to situations.
Sure, that's how I learned how to play poker. Is I see how people react to bets I make and how I do things and such things of that nature. But I find there's an issue with a lot of people I talk to, maybe not a lot of people, but a number of people that I've talked to, I should say, who I consider to be friends or family, and they bring up just bad arguments, not because they know it's a bad argument, but because they actually believe the argument in general. And I see people, when I'm watching people on YouTube or any other video platform I use, and they use bad arguments to justify their argument. And I sort of think about the fact that, okay, you could be doing a whole bunch of things. If you think about chess, right? One of the worst wins is the 3-win move. Okay, because there's so many ways of preventing it from happening. If you do win with it, your opponent is just unexposed to the game at all and has no idea how to actually play. And the only way you can win using that is against someone who doesn't play.
Right.
So no one uses that in actuality as a real play for the game itself. Okay? But if you talk to someone who doesn't know what they're talking about and you use an argument against them that you know will only serve for you to win the conversation as opposed to, and I find that's a lot of what people do is they try to win the conversation. They don't try to actually have a conversation.
Right.
So they put out bad arguments in bad faith because they know that, oh, maybe my opponent doesn't actually know what he's talking about, so I could slip in a bad argument and use that to win him over.
Well, that's one reason why a lot of people will use fallacies to win the argument, because it's not about the truth; it's about winning, and this whole thing that they know or they think they know, or this whole idea of, oh well, I'll just use a shitty argument as long as it helps me win, is really something about identity in general, right? Because if you're not we have so much focus on winning rather, because we live in an egocentric society, that we dismiss the truth just so that we can win, and we ultimately create more harmful situations for ourselves. And people will say whatever the fuck they want in order to just win and just be right because I need to feel good.
Well, that's the whole reason why suddenly when a leftist is in trouble, they'll call for the cops that they were just protesting against, just because, well, they're in trouble now.
Yeah.
And they don't really connect the fact that, I've just been protesting all these people. Why do I expect them to come and help me? Wasn't I saying that they're all bastards and they shouldn't really, they shouldn't help me. But I'm going to call for them anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but people will go the extra length and they'll do whatever just to try to make whatever they said true. And it's like, oh, well, it's not true, but I'll argue it and I'll just make it true later because I got to feel good about myself and so forth.
They'll try and force whatever they have to. If it wasn't true to begin with, then I will set up a situation in which it can be true just so I can prove that it was true, just so that you're wrong and I win.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and we, pretty much in society now we see really three common fallacies being used, and that's the appeal to emotion or appeal to something.
I hate it.
The ad hominem and the straw man, right? You see a straw man a lot about, especially when you're, oh, Trump is so bad, this, that, and the other thing, and Biden's so bad, this, that, and the other thing, when it's all the fucking same bullshit.
Well, that's I think I strongly feel there is a lack of good education in society right now. Like we made such good strides from the 1800s into the 1900s, just as far as getting the average education of individuals to a certain point. And the United States was going really strong, having really good education rates for a while, and then they slowed down. And now I'm always hearing, well, the United States is at the bottom of the charts when it comes to education. And I don't know how true any of that is, because I often find a lot of these polls that people are putting out there are mostly just to prove a point. Once again, numbers can be used for whatever goddamn means that they want to.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole line saying numbers don't lie, but again, people lie.
Yes.
5 can't lie. It's just a number 5. But, you say 5 inches, well, that's somebody putting words to it and so forth, and then it's based on the person that you're listening to and how trustworthy they are, You know, how trustworthy is the source of your information, which is a point, right? But the problem is that people use, this is going into the ad hominem. People will make ad hominems as a way of counting an argument. Instead, now you can go to a person's character as to far as their trustworthiness. That's legitimate, but an argument.
Sorry about that.
Die a little faster, but but an
Now
argument,
kill me.
but an argument which has nothing to do, which is not inherently fact based. It's well, I don't know if I want to say that, but an argument has nothing to do with the person that's saying it. It's just an argument. But people will consider the source as a counter to the argument, which is when it's a fallacy. It's not something that's a logical response, right?
So I think
broken clocks.
Yes, they're right once a day.
Only if it's a 24-hour clock.
Yes, that's why I consider once a day.
Hmm.
Then they're right never half the day.
Never half the day. Depends on which way the clock is broken.
But so I'm thinking about this, and I play card games. I play board games and stuff, and so do you to some extent. And I think of there's something I've always thought about. It's called the meta. Okay?
Yeah.
So I have to assume at one time that when people were doing these public debates, because there was this grand old time of yore where there were just public debates between two very influential people over different topics, and those were that was like the
highlight of civilization.
Yes, there was nothing more entertaining that we could expect, so that was what we went to.
Yeah, I mean, now public debates is, you a bitch, you a hoe.
Yes. So I think about that, and then I think about the meta of what a public debate. So if you learn really early in your debating career that I can undercut my opponent by throwing out a bad line that is not disprovable, but also not provable.
Right.
I can use that as a way of defeating him. And I know it's a bad argument to do, but I know that they can't really do anything about it, so I can just use that to sort of throw them off. And I think about something like that. I'm not talking from experience from having taken debate courses or anything like that, because I definitely haven't. And I haven't done any of this stupid shit, because that's for nerds.
Well, I mean,
You stupid nerds.
But I've worked with kids over the past few years, and part of what I would do is, ACT and SAT prep. And when if they're doing the writing part, this is actually stuff that I go over with them, because the writing part is picking apart somebody's paper and picking all the fallacies out of it, and dissecting them and countering them and so forth.
But the reason I bring this up is because often I will watch because I've become increasingly more, I guess, politically aware in my my last 5 to 10 years. I watch all the those hearings that they have in the Senate or the House with Facebook and Google and all these other organizations,
right?
Or between Fauci and whatever Republican, Democrat assholes want to just put them up
Dr.
on the
Fawcett.
spotlight.
Dr. Fawcett.
Yes, Dr. Fawcett. And I just look at all of the things that everybody's doing, and often I find one side is trying to be very much more true to the what the actual reason they're there for is.
Yeah, I mean that's usually the underdog plays. You'll see the one side be the underdog because the other side has all the power, and then as soon as it flips,
they switch roles.
Yeah, they switch roles. The new underdog is the one that's talking all the reason and so forth, and the people just buy into it over and over again.
There's no sense to be made out of any of these bullshit hearings. I honestly think it's all just a giant waste of money.
It is.
I don't know why we're funding any of this. I don't know why we agree to any of this. But moving on to the main point is that 2 out of 3 groups in these situations will use bad arguments purposefully because it does only one thing. They don't really care about winning the debate against the individual. They only care about the public, the
theater.
Yes, the fourth party who is not in this at all.
Fourth estate. It's called.
What?
They're called the fourth estate.
Was that what the people who are watching the whole thing would be?
No, the public in general.
Well, it doesn't matter. I'm considering them the fourth party
Right.
because there's the red, the blue, and the guy that's on stand, right? And then there's us, who
Oh,
are
okay,
just watching
okay,
from
okay.
the outside situation.
Right. Okay, I get you.
So, as the fourth party to this, those viewers who are looking on as all this is happening, there's either two types of people. There's zeros and ones. No, that's an inside joke. There's there's really two groups of people in this situation. It's people who are looking to actually see stuff get done, and they're looking at it with a critical eye, and they're examining what people are saying and how they're responding. And then you have the other group that's saying, "Is my side winning? Is my side winning? Oh my God, he got a point! He scored!"
Yeah, and you know, I noticed that a lot from people that are really into sports.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's no connection there whatsoever.
Absolutely not.
I'm sure it's all corollary and nothing, you know. But going into that, you have the flip side of the ad hominem. Well, it was kind of the flip side, which is the appeal to authority,
Sure.
which is, it's that whole Milgram Effect.
That's a bullshit argument from the beginning.
Well, no, it's the Milgram Effect. Well, this guy got a degree, and this guy's a politician. This guy got a degree. I've done, I mean, I can tell you all the shit I've done. That doesn't mean jack shit for the things I tell you. You have to research the shit for yourself.
You're an electrician.
That's one of the things I am, yeah.
If you give me advice on something, and I repeat that advice to someone else, I'm not appealing to authority. I'm appealing to someone who I know knows his shit. Okay? Now, that could be an authority.
The appeal to authority is that
this guy's a doctor. What he's saying must be true.
Right.
Because he's the doctor.
Or he has a degree. And part of the problem where this fallacy actually gets developed is in the courtrooms. Because in the courts, you get, when you're getting juries, you have a bunch of people that they're just random people, may or may not know the relevant science of something, but they'll get an expert testimony on the stand. And for the most part, the people in the jury are supposed to accept this expert testimony based on the fact that this guy's got degrees and experience and this, that, and the other thing.
So I think that's a load of bull. I think that whole entire thing is... Now, this might be because I'm so skeptical about people in general, but if someone tells me something, my first thought is, what does he get that information from?
Yeah.
I'd love to learn why he came to that conclusion. Why can't I immediately assume that he is possibly wrong and come up with a different supposition as to why I might be right instead of him?
Right. I mean, for me, I don't give a shit what you've done in your life. I don't give a shit what degree you have and so forth. And this is actually getting more in the Monday show, if we have the Monday show, or we're not waiting a week. But show me the mechanics from start to scratch of how this happens. You can find out what I know and whatnot, but show me the mechanics.
It doesn't have to be a deep dive into.
It doesn't have to be a deep dive.
I just want to know how A plus B equals C, and that's
Yeah.
I just want to know Y equals X, XMB, XM plus B.
But and that's the whole thing where this whole trust of science falls apart, because okay, you want me to trust the science that math works? Show me the mechanics. And nobody will be able to do that. Right?
That's I find the biggest problem with the appeal to authority is that it's when you can appeal to authority, okay? Because there are a lot of times you can appeal to authority because the authority you've been, specifically when it's someone you know and you've dealt with many, many times, that would be, in my opinion, a genuine appeal to authority.
Well, I mean, that's not really an appeal to authority.
No,
that's somebody that you've vetted.
Yes.
So that's not an appeal to authority.
I don't like is when someone tells me that, well, this doctor said it and that doctor must be correct, and
yeah, we must obey Dr. Fawcett. But I mean,
don't forget about the cult, man.
Yeah, and that brings to probably the most pervasive. Yeah. The night time is the right time. Remember, you ever listen to that?
No.
That Adam Sandler bit. No, but so the most pervasive in current time is the appeal to emotion, which is like, make it's appeal to emotion with the whole like wanting to be part of a group. That kind of ties together.
Children.
Think of the children, the pearl clutching. oh, this hurt my feelings. You should feel bad because it hurt my feelings. No, fuck you. Um, and just automatically that emotional response, and that's the problem with that is kind of a knee-jerk thing that's built into our human nature is that emotional response that happens to a lot of people. I mean, it happens to me too every once in a while, and I try to avoid it, but you know, yeah.
I mean, it's just keep thinking about a lot of these things. It's I find it interesting how quick people are to try to win an argument
Mm-hmm.
using a false narrative, a false statement, anything that is, well, if the other person doesn't know, then I'm a point ahead, and it's more interesting how quick people are who want to. It's
Yeah, I mean, it's
they
almost
just want to win.
yeah, it's as if right, this whole idea of competition between people, which I agree, they're you can't breed stronger people without competition, but it's been taken to such idiocy where now we're all in intellectual competition where oh, I'm smarter than you because blah 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 blah. I listen to this person and blah 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 blah, so I win. Fuck you. When that doesn't really do anything, and it doesn't really offer anything substantial.
No, no, it really doesn't. You know, most of the time, I just want to have a nice debate with someone. I would love to win the debate, but it's not about. I want to hear more often than not why someone comes to a conclusion that they've come to, so I can learn more about a subject. I've found often with debating people about free healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
that whole bullshit issue, in my opinion, is that most often than not, it's well, think about those poor people who can't afford health care. And I can't use that as a valid argument as to why I should be in support of free health care. I would be in support of health care for individuals who can't afford to pay it if I didn't think it was ultimately a bad thing overall. Because I think that you're setting people up. If you just say carte blanche, okay, I'm going to give everyone free health care.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, health care does not limit itself to only necessary procedures.
Right.
It also includes elective procedures.
Right.
And I know in countries where they do have that, there is a problem where people do go for elective stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes
Bogs
up time.
down the system.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then also there's the fact that in societies where there is health care, there are problems where everyone's going in for every tiniest little thing. You know, it's like my mother. She would, if I scraped my knee, she would get all up and, oh no, you hurt yourself. I gotta stop you.
Mm-hmm.
People get overprotective about the dumbest bullshit ever.
Yeah.
So suddenly,
Hypochondriacs and whatnot
suddenly
too.
everything's an issue, and you're bogging down the system with bullshit things.
Now, when it comes to
Got the
topics,
nose.
oh, you got allergies.
It's the worst
I got
thing to
tree
do.
sperm all over my car.
Yeah, I got tree eggs all over my car.
But
Can they make little tiny trees?
let's crash our cars together and find out.
I want this real quick.
But so for me, I'm not so much specifically for debating. I enjoy debating and discussing because, as I said, the more you try to take things, separate things, the more you find how alike they are, and the more you try to put things together, the more you find out how different they are. And my real only interest in any topic is not so. I don't really give a shit about winning or losing. That's not the point. I'm interested in exploring. And for me, the most fun in any topic is to get to that point where all the ideas are out, all the arguments have been made, and you can't find a clear-cut, simple answer because there can be so many caveats and there's just not a right answer. And now everything kind of becomes, all right, well, we can make a decision. Let's make a decision and tentatively follow that decision, but realize that we can be wrong and need to go in a different direction. And that doesn't necessarily mean an opposite direction, but a different direction nonetheless. And that's what I particularly enjoy.
I think I discovered years ago. I know I discovered years ago that there are at least 50 different ways to skin a cat from Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Which means there's so many ways of doing anything in the world. Okay, it just so happens that some of them are better ways of doing it than others. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but that leads me to believe that a lot of people discount ideas in certain topics. They try to reach conclusions, skipping over steps in their topics, because they want to do it the most efficient way possible.
Yeah, I mean,
And
then, but at the same time too, you'll have efficiency now means detriment later.
yes,
You know, where and vice
some
versa.
cases.
In some
Not
cases, not all
always.
cases, yeah.
but there is times where people.
And I think that's really like what I really go for whenever diving deep into any topic is not so much the direction, but the fact that when things become so unknown, you have to by default be more adaptive. You have to be able to change and say, okay, well this isn't working so well. Let's start going this direction, or this is working well. Let's keep going in this direction.
But sometimes it doesn't always.
It doesn't always work.
Well, not only that,
Because
but
people
what I
are
was
fucking
gonna say
stubborn
is,
assholes.
If you specialize in something,
Mm-hmm.
you could become much better at it, but you become much less adaptive to the situation. But
Well-
you're still really good at doing something in that one way.
You ever hear the joke about the engineer and the salesman?
No.
Okay, so when an engineer starts his career, he learns general science, right? And then as he goes through school, he learns a more specific field, and he learns more about that, and he keeps going to more education, more narrow field, and he learns more and more about it, until at the pinnacle of his career, he knows absolutely everything there is to know about nothing. The salesman, on the other hand, has a whole bunch of has one product. He learns all about the product, all the ins and outs, does a good job, sells that product, and then, now he's got this other product to sell. Well, he can't learn as much because he doesn't have time, and then he gets more products, and he doesn't have as much time, more products, less time to learn all of it, until at the pinnacle of career, he knows absolutely nothing about everything.
That's great.
But, and there's some truth to that, too.
There definitely is. I think that comes back to one of my old thought processes, is the fact that at a microscopic scale...
Microaggression? Oh, I'm sorry.
At a microscopic scale, a lot of things work much more differently than at a macroscopic scale. And you can see that in the sciences.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's definitely true, because when you talk about particle physics, you talk about quantum mechanics and Newtonian physics and
that's
so
a
forth.
truth more about science than just that. It doesn't just apply to science. In fact, much like how we see... that one pattern that persists everywhere?
The golden ratio, 1.61, 61034. God, I can't remember the number. It's
No.
1 plus or minus the square root of 5 over 2.
No, I don't know that one. I'm talking about the pattern in...
The Fibonacci sequence?
No, god damn you. The pattern, veins. Okay, the fact that veins are in everything. Okay?
Oh, yeah. That's a mathematical computation as well.
Yes, I know that, but I'm talking about the visual portion.
Right.
So, veins are everywhere. They're in humans, they're in the trees, they're in the streams, they're in the galactic
Ley line?
ley lines.
But also you see the golden ratio and everything too, and the Fibonacci sequence, which leads you to the golden ratio.
But the micro and macro difference is also everything, okay? Economies at a micro scale work completely differently than the same type of economy at a macro scale.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the one thing. I mean, one of the things that that has helped me learn a lot about like people interactions is by learning the different levels of science, because it all relates to the different levels of science.
Now, I think that also applies to fallacies too, because there may be a fallacy that is actually a truth at a small set.
Right, that's a false equivocation.
But when you keep going past that, the arguments will often, if not always, just break apart. They will fall flat on their face because they're not really explaining what you thought they were explaining. And I see that all the time, and it's... I think people want to grab onto these fallacies because, well, it worked here, and I want it to keep working.
Yeah, and I think that becomes a part of,
They become too attached to it.
because it becomes part of identity, right? When you see that something works, that you feel more stable in the world, and it latches onto your identity, and also conclusions that you come to, even if they are fallacies or whatnot, because you came to that conclusion, it's part of your identity, and that's what it affects a lot of this.
People have a hard time of letting go of something that they thought was true.
Let it go. I don't know that song.
It's good, because I was going to punch the shit out of you if you started singing that. I hate that song. It's the most annoying song
I've heard
ever.
it at some point.
Don't bring it up. You're talking about, it's almost as bad as Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice?
No, I'm not saying that name.
We could say the alternate version.
No.
Your friend.
No. We don't want to summon him either.
Oh, okay.
But it's something that's hard to break away from, because people love their fallacies to a point of where they'll just keep on repeating it because they want it to be true.
Right.
They want the truth so bad.
Well, not only they'll keep on repeating, they'll try to make it happen. I mean, that was,
as you mentioned before.
I mean, that's that I know I talked about my psychosis the other day, but that's one thing too with my psychosis, where I think a lot of the things was me subconsciously wanting these things to be true, so I made them happen without consciously knowing it.
I think that's what the entire last year was. It was.
I'd say more than last year.
No, I'm specifically referring to the virus.
The vid,
we wanted the vid to be so deadly for some reason. And people, I see it all the time. People want to stay home. They don't want to go back into the world for some reason.
Jobs suck.
Well, yeah, jobs do suck. But they see the vid as a valid reason. Oh, my job sucks. And there might be this deadly virus out there. I can stay home and not learn or grow or anything. In fact, people became fatter because of that, too. It's like, I can't go outside and exercise, so I just got to keep eating
I became thinner.
And
I miss my moobs.
I don't miss any of my fat.
All right, well, I think it's about all we got time for today.
Yeah.
I think it's about time to wrap up the show. So
It's a fallacy.
Is it? You sure?
Now it's time to wrap it up.
Oh, okay. Fuck you, Greg. All right, so that's it for our show then.
Once again, I'm Greg.
And I'm Charles.
Remember to never question.
Never ask for proof.
And always believe what you're told by the news and politicians.
No matter what. Now go back to sleep, fuckers. Good night, fellow human. You'll wake up tomorrow to cause more destruction and bring much more sorrow. You'll go out and smile and pretend you are good. But once you get crossed, you'll don a black hood. You'll maim and you'll rend, all while you pretend that you are some kind of hero. You can't face the truth, and you'll stay aloof to the fact that you're a zero. You'll sit and stay glued to a spoon-feeding tube so that you can believe you're the best. You'll obey and be bribed by a campaigner's lies. All throughout the COVID Murder Fest. I hate you.